Hello and welcome to All Elite Morro. We're the best. Talk wrestling. Isn't that right, Shane? Who's here to listen to Morro chat shite, and shite will be chatted. That's what we're here for. Talk shit about the wonderful world of professional wrestling. How's everybody's weekend? What did we all watch? Tell you what I watched. Instant regret. Saturday night's main event. Judging from... Hello, Mr. David Ayres. Judging from the Wrestling Show fan response on Instagram today, I think a lot of people feel the same as I do. When it comes to Saturday night's main event, I have Stage Guy's response here. His response was meh. And I think that's in relation to Saturday night's main event. Shane watched Crockett Cup 1986. Absolutely wonderful. How did that stack up against Saturday night's main event, Shane? Crockett Cup 86. Is that the one that they put up recently? Like over the summer there on the WWE. The best content WWE is producing at the minute is... all the stuff they're putting up on the vault, on all the 80 stuff, although that wrestling, like, they've put up loads of stuff recently from the Omni, several cards, all territory stuff. It's fantastic. Michelle, don't feel the need to contribute. You can just sit back, relax, and listen. Aaron Reynolds says, thank God SNME was earlier than usual perfused, because I definitely would have fallen asleep otherwise. A lot of responses on the inset today. Rush O'Reilly says, why does Triple H hate Drew and Randy and LA Knight and good booking? Yeah. They had 87 up, 86 up last 2 weeks. Headlocks and arm locks were the name of the game. You know the old arm drags, headlock takeovers, the old headlock itself. But the headlocks, if you watch some of them older cards, the headlocks are a real struggle. They're magnificent. It doesn't feel like a rest hold as such. It feels like its own little struggle at the start of a match. Mark Dowd says, oh, hang on, Mark Dowd has two, so I should read the first one first. Drew does not excite me at all. His 97 Bret Hart gimmick is stale right now. Totally. It's like, it was working last year throughout the Punk feud, this kind of Twitter troll style gimmick he was running. Like Mark said, like it's almost like an update of the Bret Hart 97 thing. For the social media age. And it felt exciting and fresh during the Punk feud last year. But this year it feels like, I don't know, it's like, has he leaned into it too much? Has he become dependent on it? I'm not sure. But also, when he's not getting put in interesting programs on screen, the Twitter stuff isn't going to hit anyway. Shane says, Coco Beware basically had a headlock on for 8 minutes, was great, took a backdrop and never broke the headlock. That's something you never see anymore. Never see. Mark Dowd, also, is it just me, or are we currently in a very dull period right now for wrestling? That's one of my topics kind of for today. Topic 2 basically. Oshin Mack says, after Saturday for me, any chance of Jey Uso as a big time player is dead in the water. Yep, welcome to the party on that one, Oshin. And yeah, I read O'Reilly's one. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on Saturday night's main event in general, but I think I don't know, I suppose I'll just jump into the lead here with CM Punk's title win in a 20-odd minute match with Jey Uso. Firstly, absolutely the right choice of winner. There was nothing to be gained out of having Jey Uso win the title and go back into whatever type of bloodline rubbish we're going to see over the next few months, because it feels like they're leaning heavily back into that, and having the title be in that sphere would be, I think, a nightmare for the title itself. And also, if they're going to do that, it's better that they're kind of segmented away from the rest of the card, and not like hold the title hostage over in their own little universe. So I think it was the right winner. There's much more interesting stuff for Punk. I thought the match itself was dreadful. And wasn't just Jey Uso. I thought both guys were gassed out. Like, even before the halfway point of the match. I just got super sloppy, and like the execution of moves, and I know like sometimes sloppiness can be good and it feels like a real fight, but I'm not buying that kind of that analysis on this one. This was just sloppy. Nothing felt impactful. I felt like at times Punk was just rehashing and playing the hits. I felt it was the oldest and slowest and most sluggish Punk looked in a long time. Like, I don't even know where to start with Jey Uso. He looked gassed out after 5 minutes, and that was 25% into the match. They still had 75% of the match to go. I just thought it was just a terrible, terrible match from two guys who, one guy who can, I think Punk has something more to offer. I do think we are probably at the stage now where he is like, look, he's been physically past his best since his return, but he's so smart that he's been able to make that work. This really felt like the first time where it didn't work. I know, Shane, you don't mind that it didn't look polished, but to me, it wasn't like Punk has had loads of matches that don't look polished that are good. I felt this is one of those matches that didn't look polished and it just looked terrible. Mac says, even though the Punk fan in me was happy, watching the match was like slowly letting the air out of a balloon, awfully tough watch. That's how I felt. Like, this felt different than other Punk matches where he was like seemingly struggling with the pace or with certain levels of sloppiness. This was just a really bad. I think you can get away with Punk's sloppiness at the moment when he's in the ring with a guy who is really, really good. When he's in there with someone at Jey Uso's level, like, Jey Uso is, to be fair, a really good tag team wrestler. I just don't understand how he's so bad in these big singles matches. And this isn't a new thing. Like, his WrestleMania match with Gunter, he looked bollocks in that as well after a few minutes. And I know, like, that WWE Unreal rubbish that they produced, you know, they had that whole thing with Triple H, he needs to work on his cardio. And then, like, afterwards, he worked on his cardio and they pulled it off in the match. I'm like, no, he didn't. He did. His cardio was the same in the Gunter match as it was in the previous 2 or 3 months. He's just not very good at singles wrestling. It doesn't have the cardio for it. It seemingly didn't work on his cardio for it. He has about 4 moves that he spams on repeat. There's no, like, there's a real struggle for an emotional height or a dramatic height at any point of the match. And for me, and I know Shane will disagree there, and that's okay. We're allowed to have different opinions. I felt this wasn't one of those matches that the sloppiness was, or the lack of polish was okay because it looked like an actual fight. That's okay at times when the moves still look impactful and they look like they would hurt and do damage. There was none of that here. Like, Punk had a lot of sloppiness in the Drew stuff, but it looked like they were genuinely trying to kill each other, and the sloppiness enhanced that kind of how hard, like, not how hard they were hitting each other, because, you know, that's worked as well, but how the vitriol that was within the matches itself. Whereas this, to me, was just, it looked like 2 kids rolling around a schoolyard, to be perfectly honest. And, you know, in my previous life as a teacher, I saw an awful lot of that. and a lot of them fights were better than this one. Yeah, I just thought it was really poor stuff on a card that was kind of crap in general. David Ayer says, I didn't watch much wrestling this week. I saw some clips of the show and laughed at Punk's spear. Yeah, the spear was particularly bad. And they're going back to that thing again of, he's just done it too many times in quick succession now. The GTS, where then the guy bounces off the ropes and falls back into the GTS again. Like he did it twice with Rollins now. He obviously did it with Mox a couple of years ago. And he's doing it here with Jey Uso again. It's like, save that for bigger opponents on bigger stages. And there's a feeling like to anyone else that the Saturday Night's Main Event experiment itself has died a death. Like that's kind of my next topic. The idea of Saturday Night's Main Event. And when Saturday Night's Main Event came back well over a year ago now, it felt like a kind of an exciting moment. And it felt like an opportunity for the company to, I don't know, play out the formula, do something slightly different. I know this one was on streaming and it wasn't on NBC as the previous ones were in America. So that's probably why they went for the 4 matches instead of 5. Yeah, 4 matches, 2 of them being 20 minutes. What do people think of the Drew and Cody match? I thought it was below what the two of those guys should be producing. I know it was kind of heatless going in. Drew never picked up any much needed steam. They did do a good job in the building in selling the fact that Drew might have a chance of taking the title here. But with the stip, the Cody disqualification type stip, did that help? I don't think that helped the match at all. Colin Nelligan says WWE has gotten so boring, even Triple H won't turn up. Yeah, it's a problem when your head booker isn't going to supposedly PLE type shows. I hate myself for using the PLE terminology, but I guess that's what it is. A word that sprang to mind, the Social Mac for Cody versus Drew is simply bland. Yeah, it was so bland. Like it wasn't a bad wrestling match. I thought the Punk J match was an actively bad wrestling match. Drew and Cody wasn't a bad wrestling match at all, but it was just for a Cody Rhodes world title defense against a guy who was as hot as Drew was a year ago. That feels like a match that should be, great. Like something to really look forward to. And if you didn't see it, and you wake up the next morning and you go, and like there should be a bit of buzz surrounding it, but there was no buzz surrounding it before or after. And I didn't watch it live. I watched the next day, and I was like, like it felt like it was going on forever, and nothing of interest was really happening. And that's like it's a Cody Rhodes world title defense. That should feel special. Is Cody cooling a little bit? Probably. But he's had such an amazing run that his world title defenses should feel special. Even now, if you have to do them more sparingly, you don't need a challenger of the month type thing. You can wait 2 months for a title defense, but they need to find a way to make Cody's title defenses feel more special. Because this didn't feel special. It felt like there was just a lack of anticipation, a lack of heat going into the match, and then the match itself under-delivered on even having low heat. I felt like they went the bones of 20 minutes just kind of for the sake of going 20 minutes. I think that's another problem with Saturday Night's Main Event cards in general. Like, this was a 2-hour show, and yeah, you had some backstage segments and that kind of stuff, but it really only featured 9 wrestlers. And I think that's a big missed opportunity. Like, here's what they got right. I think they got the Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, how the match was designed, the execution of the match, the length of the match, the result of the match. I think they got all those things right. And it's not going to hurt Tiffany Stratton in any sense. Like, she has a huge, I think, future ahead of her. But it does shake up the women's division. Jade was booked really well. I thought she looked fairly good. Like, they were able to very quickly, or very smartly, cleverly, what would you call it, kind of hide her weaknesses in ring. I think we're probably at a stage, really, like, this is basically what we're going to see out of Jade. I don't think we're going to get much more. I don't think we're going to see like a rapid improvement or anything. I think basically the Jade we're looking at on TV now is the Jade is kind of basically the finished product, and I think you just kind of need to book around that. I don't think she's ever going to get to a stage where she's going to have real good 15-minute matches. But I thought they did this really well, and it felt like something totally different than was on the rest of the card. I thought easily the best match on the show was... Well, do you know what? The Jade Tiffany could have been the best match on the show, really. No, it wasn't. The triple threat was. Dominic Mysterio defending his Intercontinental title in a victory over Penta and Rusev. However, I've said this a million times on various forms of the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show podcast, including this one, I think, that WWE's signature match is the triple threat. It's what they do better than any other match. They consistently deliver fantastic triple threats. And the one area I've always proved Seth Rollins is, I think Seth Rollins is one of the best triple threat wrestlers ever. He is excellent in that stipulation. Like, if you look at this year alone, we've gotten 2 or 3 like really great triple threats from this company. 2 at WrestleMania. The women's one was absolutely incredible, and the men's one, the Punk Rollins Roman one, was very, very good. So it is a stipulation that this company is really good at putting together, I think. And so did this triple threat to Dominic, Penta, and Rusev kind of live up to the expectations I have in general for WWE triple threats? Probably not. But I still thought it was like a really solid, decent match, and it didn't overstay its welcome. I felt both world title matches kind of overstayed their welcome with me, and it's not because I love long matches in general. I just thought both of these were kind of bad, longish matches, the 2 world title matches. And that's why the Jade and Tiffany one, in hindsight, kind of felt like something different and fresh. And it got me thinking about Saturday night's main event in general, and how they structure and book these shows, or put these shows together. And I think they really missed the trick with Saturday night's main event. This Saturday night's main event came along, and it was something that should have felt totally different from everything else within their universe. It was the type of show that was going to be on once every 2 to 3 months on NBC, with probably a larger audience than any of the other shows are going to certainly a more access to a more casual audience than your shows were going to generally get. So I think what they've really missed here is an opportunity at showcasing a multitude of wrestlers across the card in fun and interesting ways. I think what Saturday night's main event has become is just another one of their kind of B-show PLEs, like like these ones, Clash in Wherever and Crown Jewel and all those type of ones, where you just have 5 matches in a whatever location, and there's generally a world title match on there. It's mostly singles, and you get some good wrestling. And Maxi says WWE has 0 aftercare. Yes, Yes. I think what Saturday night's main event could have been is like they could have like almost had a different theme for each one, where like you could have had a one that's a load of like a multitude of multi-man matches, Survivor Series style. You could have had another one that was a one night tournament, 8 wrestlers, one night tournament, quarterfinal, semi-final, and final, and you have various different stylistic matches throughout the show. Some of them might even be 2 minutes long. Some of them might be 6 minutes. Some of them might be 15 minutes. And like you get a feel of an old Bret Hart working his way through a King of the Ring type thing, and somebody emerges out of that much more over. You could have done like all sorts of a tag team themed one for all these tag teams that they have that are never getting on PLEs or pay-per-views anymore. And I think that's what Saturday night's main event could have been. It could have been, while in universe, just treated differently and presented differently than all the other shows they do, because this just feels like another PLE, and all their PLEs are starting to blend into one. And that's kind of echoes what Brian Maxwell says in the chat there, where here's the match, leave the money on the counter, they're all pop, no snuggle. Like, I totally agree with that. It's just like, it's almost like they're just churning out content for the sake of content with very little thought put into variety or like presentation. Like, everything is just presented the same, and the matches all feel the same, and they all blend into one another, and like everything is so formulaic. And it's like, break that up. Saturday night's main event on like with this TV station that has huge reach could have been something totally different and much more fun, and we never got that. It just very quickly became just another PLE. And that's why, like, I'm happy with how they did the Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton thing, because that felt different. And I'm happy they put a triple threat on this one, because again, that would feel different than 4 one-on-one matches. And that's another thing, Brian. Brian there says we're in the drone shot era. It's like, everything is designed at looking and feeling, not even feeling, there's no top into how something feels. Everything is designed at looking great. Glitz. WWE are the McDonald's of wrestling and are perfectly comfortable to do that. At least with McDonald's, every now and again they'll throw something weird on their menu. WWE just don't throw something weird on the menu. Like, WWE or McDonald's, without any of like the whenever they bring out like some sort of buffalo chicken wrap or something, you know, there's never a bit of spice in WWE. It's, you get your Big Mac and your fries and a few chicken nuggets, and that's all they're offering at the minute. That's Oisin Mac with the McDonald's comparison, and he's right, except I actually think he's being too kind with the McDonald's comparison, because this is a company at the moment that feels so creatively bankrupt. I know there's a lot of talk with WWE ticket sales kind of dropping, but at the same time, the levels are dropping too, to 6,000-7,000. I know they had a 4,000 recently, which is bad, but bad for them. 99% of other companies in the history of wrestling would be happy enough with a 4,000 TV house. I suppose, though, what I'm trying to say is, like, this narrative around their ticket sales dropping off a lot, I think it's kind of overblown slightly, because we've come out of what was obviously like an insanely hot period, their hottest period in 25 years. It's their hottest period since like peak Attitude Era, in terms of consistently selling like 15,000, 16,000, 12,000, 14,000 for TV shows. And dropping to 7, like, that's still ahead of where they were in the mid to late 2010s. If they even out around the 7,000 mark, that's actually still pretty good, and it's probably where a fair reflection of the number one wrestling company is or should be. Like, you know, we do talk about how niche wrestling probably really is. It was hard to make that argument when WWE was in such a hot period. I think the hot period is probably over in like that super hot period. Colin Milligan says Triple H stepped down at the first anniversary of the Netflix collaboration. He'll be replaced by Road Dogg. Oh, Jesus. 2 weeks later, he gets replaced by Undertaker's wife. Maxie says that's so likely to happen. It's scary. Undertaker there, he'll have his wife booking AAA fairly soon, I would imagine. This thing of Undertaker being one of the creative guys in AAA is mind-boggling. Like, surely you get some lucha guys. Because remember they bought AAA or made the announcement at WrestleMania just gone, and it was like there were all the language being used in the press releases surrounding the announcement was traditional lucha libre. There's been nothing. Firstly, AAA was the idea of them even forming back in 92, 93 was that they weren't going to be a traditional lucha libre company. They were a breakaway from tradition. So they were never themselves, they never wanted to be a traditional lucha libre thing. But then the idea of Triple H and WWE running a traditional lucha libre company and then bringing in Undertaker to kind of be one of the main guys backstage is utterly ludicrous. I spit in the face of people who don't like Michelle McCool. Hey, look, we all have a soft spot for Michelle McCool, but when they replaced Mickey James on that show, whatever that show is called, it's not Tough Enough. What's that one called? Fight. Mickey James has a great wrestling mind, and she shouldn't be replaced by Michelle McCool when it comes to a kind of a training system, in my opinion. Probably maybe don't know enough about either of their thoughts on it. She is awful. Let's be honest. I was trying to be nice there in case I angered the Undertaker marks out there again, because God knows I have history with the Undertaker marks. Those guys don't like me whatsoever. And, you know, as time goes on, as always, I'll be proven to be right. Undertaker, overrated. Aaron Reynolds said, I'd rather watch NXT than Raw at the moment. It's hilariously shit, whereas Raw is just nothing. Like, NXT is hilariously shit. Like, I have watched... I don't come home from work every Wednesday and fire up NXT from the night before. I'll put it to you like that. But sometimes I'll throw on an episode, whatever the latest episode of NXT is at some stage during the week. And sometimes I find it like that parody level of offensive pro wrestling. Whereas other times I'm just like, look, this is essentially a student theatre version of pro wrestling with some people who are really good and some people who aren't. And that's actually what student theatre is like. You end up with some deadly people involved, and then, you know, you're really struggling maybe to fill out a full cast. And that's what NXT feels like. And it feels like a mishmash of ideas, but at least, at the very least, there's ideas in there. There seems to be no ideas on Raw. Raw at the minute. And as for SmackDown, talk about a slog to get through. And there has to be some sort of creative change behind the scenes. Like I said, there was Saturday night's main event being a perfect opportunity to try something different, get a little bit creative, feature tag teams, feature factions, have a one-night tournament, you know, all that kind of stuff. And yet they've just gone with the same old formula, and they've got, like, you know, we've been joking now for 2 years or more about Triple H's 5-match PLE formula outside of kind of, you know, your WrestleManias and SummerSlams and so on. Pro wrestling needs something to ape and parody, yeah, rather than itself. And like this 5-match PLE structure, at the start it was like, okay, right, there's some great matches on these shows. You had like AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes in France and other stuff like that. Like, you know, some of them shows had great matches. Now we're at a stage where we're 2 years or more into the 5-match cards, and we've just gotten a 4-match card, I suppose. And it just feels now so formulaic and so uninspired that it needs a creative shake-up. If next month's PLE, which actually is probably Survivor Series, so that's this month's, whatever the December PLE, it's probably John Cena's retirement match. At least that'll feel different. Or whatever the next PLE is before Royal Rumble and after Survivor Series. Just do 7 matches. Have them all varying lengths. Have a tag team match in there. Give us some variety. These cards are seriously lacking variety. You can't expect too much wrestling in the 3-hour long ads for WWE Shop, David Mean. Yes, I know, David, but you still do your ads, but just give me 7 matches and vary up the length. Give me a tag match. Give me a 6-man. Like I had instantly comparing it to AEW, but I think some AEW cards get overrated, like pay-per-views get overrated in their quality simply because of the variety that you get. Like people were, some people absolutely love. Like people were saying, Wrestle Dream was one of the best pay-per-views of the year. I didn't think so. I thought Wrestle Dream was really good, but it didn't have some of the highs of like Double or Nothing or whatever earlier in the year. But what it did have, it had super variety up and down the card. So for a fan there, you know, you had some great tag matches, you had some good singles matches. You had just kind of a little bit of everything. And I think that kind of masks sometimes the quality because not everyone, but most people watching goes away happy. You know, they have something that you really liked that you can cling to. Where some of these WWE cards don't, everything feels the same start to finish. Michelle says, I don't mind the 5-match shows. It reminds me of the old NXT shows. Yep. The 35 different ads that bulk out the show and make them unwatchable. That's the real, like, those old NXT shows that were 5 matches, you got most of the time 5 exceptional matches. When you're not getting that, then that's where the fight. But also those, I would say the key difference between those old 5-match NXT shows, the golden era of NXT, will say, and the current 5-match cards that Triple H is putting on is he's actually changed how he lays out the cards. Partly because of those ads that you're talking about, but also like those matches had like tag wrestling. They had major steps in the main event sometimes. That like there was a variety within those 5 matches. You know, they loved doing cage matches. They loved doing ladder matches. They loved doing. They did a lot of 30-minute Iron Man / Woman matches. You know, it felt like a greater variety and style of matches that we're not getting on the current. Like maybe the 5-match card could work well on the main roster currently if there was a bit more of a stylistic variety within each card. I think that's the key difference from those great NXT cards that we all loved compared to the current PLEs that we're getting at the minute. Brian Maxey says, here's a mad quote, there's no excitement about wrestling in their own product. I watched a clip of Vinnie Mac Skunkface called the 1-2-3 Kid and Marty Jannetty. There's no excitement about wrestling in their own product. Like, there isn't. There isn't any. There's no excitement. They're not excited about it. And it makes it hard then for you as a fan to engage with it. Colin Elligan says, I see a lot of heads roll and cut back if things don't improve next year. Yeah, like the thing is now, it's not like Vince booking his own stuff and he doesn't have to worry about anyone above him. TKO will be ruthless. TKO will sell will sell WWE. Like, they'll, no problem. They're basically treating this whole project, Endeavor, treating TKO almost as a hedge fund. What can they strip mine out of these monetarily? Maxie says there was more excitement about the drop down than a Crossroads. The Crossroads as well, Maxie. Like, he's bet to move into the ground recently. So what's to be excited about? And Here's something to be excited about. Some match announcements for WrestleKingdom 20 on the 4th of January. Suri, I can't pronounce properly, versus Saya Kamatani has been announced. I've been speaking about Saya Kamatani here for the last month or so. Tremendous wrestler. Suri is probably a better in-ring wrestler than Saya Kamatani. Doesn't have the groundswell of support, I suppose, that Saya Kamatani has. But they're getting a match on the WrestleKingdom show. I believe it's a title v title match. It's the New Japan Strong Women's title versus the IWGP Women's title. Not two titles that are at the moment super hot or have much longevity and much prestige, but at the same time, two fantastic wrestlers. I hope they give them 15 minutes because I think this match could be an eye-opener for a lot of Western fans who may not have seen Suri or Saya Kamatani in Stardom. I think if they give them like 12-15 minutes, these two will tear the house down and make some new fans for Stardom. That's something I'm very excited about. I think they've gotten the match right. There was loads of matches could have done. Saya Kamatani recently defended against Momo in a fantastic match this morning. Only match I've seen on the card so far. Then Evil versus Aaron Wolf. I'm never excited for an Evil match. I'm really excited to see Aaron Wolf in his pro wrestling debut. The guy's a megastar in Japan. Megastar. Like to an insane degree. It's, I suppose, the last kind of rookie coming in like this is Kurt Angle, but he's even more famous in Japan than Kurt Angle was in America. After the 96 Olympics, judo Olympian. And then they've announced the main event. We're not getting Takeshita and Okada. We've kind of predicted that here for weeks. But again, they're going title v title. Takeshita versus Yota Tsuji. Look, if you're not bringing in Okada, and the rumors are now heavily indicating... I know they're teasing Nakamura, but there is rumors indicating Okada for Tanahashi's last match. But we're getting Takeshita and Yota Tsuji. Fine, this will be really good. Big spot for Yota Tsuji. If he can have a great match with Takeshita. Look, they're putting two younger guys in the big spot. I'm fine with that. David Mean says, yeah, it's something in their portfolio and asked to be sold to Saudi eventually in regards to WWE. Once they continue to sell tickets and merch, they will continue to put out cookie cutter wrestling. Yeah, I suppose, you know, the wrestling, it feels like at the minute, is just a sales pitch for everything else that they monetize, unfortunately. So yeah, some match announcements there for WrestleKingdom. Look, we're still 2 months away from the show. They did some bonkers booking with the Junior Tag League. Like, terrible booking. The junior champions went through the whole tag league undefeated and won it out, and then didn't even challenge anyone afterwards. It was like they won the whole thing undefeated, and like they literally didn't set up a single challenger for them in the tag league. Baffling decision on Gedo's part again, and in a year full of baffling decisions. I do wonder if he's stepping down next year, because it really feels like at the moment he just doesn't care. Yeah, like at least I had the common sense to book Suri and Saya Kamatani. I don't know if maybe Evil is the right first opponent. Maybe he was the right first opponent for Aaron Wolf because you'll be able to do a lot of... Like, this is guy's pro wrestling debut. Chances are he's not going to be very good. He might get very good, but chances are in his first match he's not going to be very good. So having Evil in the House of Torture and the shenanigans, and having Aaron Wolf judo throw up 7 guys and maybe like do something physically super impressive with Bad Luck Fale. Maybe this is the right first match. You know, when you actually think about how he's going to perform, when you put in the House of Torture, you can use lots of smoke and mirrors, interferences, ref bumps, shenanigans in general that will flesh out the match to an acceptable runtime of 8 to 10 to 12 minutes. Let the fans who, because a lot of people are buying tickets to see Aaron Wolf's pro wrestling debut, so you want them to get a proper chance to see him. You don't want them out there squashing the guy in 35 seconds. You want to give those people who bought tickets the chance to actually see him. And using Evil and the House of Torture in one of their type of matches might be the best way to do it. Or you put him in there with Yuji Nagata, the guy who's training him. And, but this is probably the right choice. Anyway, I didn't want to linger long on that there, just the announcements. On to Dynamite from last week. I absolutely adored this angle with Hangman dressed as Tony Schiavone. I fucking adored it. I thought it was just excellent. One of these things that I feel like wrestling is lacking a lot of the time. Something logical yet fun. There was a certain joy in this angle that I think we lose out on sometimes. And somebody earlier and this is where I wanted to get to this. Who was it earlier on? Was it in the chat or in? Yeah, Mark Dowd. And also, is it just me? Are we currently in a very dull period right now for wrestling? I've heard that sentiment echoed a lot on Twitter over the weekend as well. John Alba had a tweet talking about kind of we're in a creative down period for wrestling. And depends what you call a creative down period. Like, I think up until probably the start of September, AEW were having their best creative year in existence. I think since probably start of September, I can't think of an exact show or date off the top of my head, but sometime around the time MJF went away, actually, I feel like their TVs have been a little bit monotone, despite the fact we're still getting great matches. It doesn't seem to have the same fervor or energy or creativity that the shows up to All In and up to like Forbidden Door and stuff had, and up to Double or Nothing. Like all that period was like super creatively hot. I don't feel that we're that creatively hot at the minute. I'll get to Bandito, Aaron. Don't you worry. I will get to Bandito. I don't think they're like super creatively firing on all cylinders at the moment, but I think they've settled into a baseline of what I'd say is good TV without being very inspiring TV. A lot of the TV doesn't feel like must watch if you're looking for a super hot angle here and there. I do think running an angle like this with Hangman dressed as Tony Schiavone and taking out Joe, I thought was just brilliant. Loved the angle, but then again the rest of the show kind of featured some poor angles and some decent wrestling. Not poor angles, just not angles that fired me up. Would be probably the fair way of doing it. This angle fired me up. And the match preceding it was decent. I thought the stuff with Samoa Joe and Bobby Lashley looked fucking great in this match. It's the best Bobby's looked all year. Maybe since he's gone to AEW, it's the best he's looked. Hook kind of struggled with the other three. He's not on their level, but he had some good moments. Ricochet as a heel in this match again was tremendous as a heel, because he still gets his high flying stuff in there, but then he sells like the biggest geek in the world when shit goes against him. And it's just that thing, I've said this about Fletcher as well, and really, really great heels can do this, is when they're on top, they milk how dominant they're being or how great that is, but then they turn into pants pissing goofs when it goes against them. And I just love that type of heel in general, that one like this, the total hypocrite. And I just thought Ricochet's performance in this match was tremendous, both in terms of the stooging heel and like the excitement he brings. That guy is just an unbelievable wrestler, to be perfectly fair to him. But yeah, the rest of the card, I thought the 4-way number one contender tag team match, FTR winning, going over Jet Speed, Jurassic Express, and the Bucks. I thought that was a fantastic match. FTR, I think, are a team that are exciting me again at the minute. Despite being kind of really cooling off earlier in the year, I thought they weren't doing the best work of their careers. I feel like they've really gotten that back over the last few months. I think they're excellent again. Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy going over Garcia and Wheeler Yuta was good. Fine, like Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly had another great match, and this time finishing in a double count out. I really like what they're doing with Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly is as hot as he's been in fucking years. Moxley once again working magic. And then the women's tag tournament off to a really interesting start. I think most people would see this as an upset. I thought it was smart to do an upset early in the tournament like this, with Julia Hart and Sky Blue beating Jamie Hayter and Queen Aminata. Decent match, like grand, like nothing spectacular or anything, but a fine match. But a good result, because I think it makes the tournament more interesting. I thought when we seen the brackets the week before, I was like, I kind of feel like I know the results of all the first round matches, and then it turns out I didn't. They swerved me, so to say. But the real, once again, Aaron, are we right, Aaron? Yes, we are. The fucking star of this weekend in professional wrestling is once again Bandito. This guy is on another fucking level at the moment. If you haven't seen his match with Mascara Dorada from Collision Saturday night, go out of your way to watch it. It is an incredible, once again, Bandito, an incredible wrestling match. And I seen somebody online say, and there might be something to this. Someone asked a question on Twitter. I can't remember who it was. Sorry, can't credit the guy. He said, are AEW verging on territory of doing lucha better than what WCW did back in the day? And I think we need to start having that conversation, because this match, it was just incredible. As Aaron said in the chat there, he's doing it every week. It's insane. It's insane. Like, 2024, we had 2 runs of wrestlers that I thought were all-time single years of just unbelievable. You had Will Ospreay in 2024, was out of this world, all-time great. Hall of Fame level year, start to finish. And you had Bryan Danielson at the very same time having a Hall of Fame all-time great year. Both guys doing it week to week to week to week. And there's nobody working on that week to week level this year across wrestling every week. Unbelievable match after unbelievable match after unbelievable match, other than Bandito. It's just, and now we get the FTR match, and I think that is going to be incredible as well. Now, here's where Oisin Mack, I kind of skipped your comment there for a minute, Oisin, because this is my worry as well. Oisin says, I feel there's a slight chance at Full Gear that FTR beat Brodito. Oisin says, but feel that Tony will want to run FTR and Cope and Christian again for the titles. That's my worry as well. That he wants to have Cope and Christian on the title lineage, and this is his way of getting Cope and Christian, because really if for Cope and Christian to win the titles and it to mean something, given the feuds that they've been having, it probably has to be FTR they beat, and this would be the way to get the titles onto FTR. Now, I do feel sometimes Tony plays with our emotions as a booker in that sense. He would want us to think that that's happening and then have Brodito win anyway. But Brodito have been on a pretty long run with the titles now. Have had loads of big defenses. And I also think there's another way to look at this as well. And yeah, I don't want their title run to end just so they can get the titles to Cope and Christian. which I do feel like this is going towards. You said a slight chance. I think it's more than a slight chance, Ush. To be perfectly honest, I think that's probably the likelihood. And David Ayres, I think, is in agreement there. That's definitely happening after FDR murdered Edge and Christian. I think that's the likelihood. I think that's the most likely outcome. Now, the silver lining in that is David Ayres is in before me with the silver lining. Although if they lose the titles, put them in the C2. That's my silver lining, is that Bandito and Brody end up in the C2. And I would put them in the same block. And I would have them go to a 20-minute draw. And not the type of thing where one of them's turning heel on the other, and is that they have to have a partners match where it's like two faces. I wouldn't have one turn on the other. But the silver lining in this is we're getting to C2 season, C squared, and really with the run Bandito's on, you want him in the Continental Classic. And one thing we've seen over the last couple of years is when Brody King was given his chance in the C2, that's when we began to take him seriously as a singles wrestler, because he was sensational when he was given the opportunity. Sensational. He was having fantastic matches with a variety of opponents. And that's when he really, really started to connect and get over with the fans, was Continental Classic run. The first one, I think, was the one where he really started to get that kind of love from the fan base, because he was putting on unbelievable matches in the Continental Classic. So the silver lining is that we should get Bandito and Brody King in the Continental Classic. However, I don't like the fact that we're probably going to get an Edge and Christian tag title run. If you asked me that at the start of the year, I probably would have said it's a good idea to have them on the lineage and to give them that run. Personally, at the moment, I think they've lost juice, they've lost steam. Edge is not connecting with the fan base. He hasn't managed to kind of shake the WWE-ness off him. He hasn't evolved to a sense, and what we've always said about those talent, there's certain talent that go from WWE to AEW and don't get over, and they're the ones that don't change or evolve. The ones that do get over are the ones that change and evolve. Look at the ones that have gotten over. They all have the same thing in common. They came and they evolved their character. They became something new and different and fresh. You're looking at Ricochet, Swerve, Mercedes Moné, Tony Storm. Jesus, how did I nearly forget Tony Storm? Like, they're the ones who've really, in my mind, succeeded, and probably FTR even, you know. And FTR didn't even change and evolve. They kind of did. They became more confident in themselves, but I suppose they were in a place where they weren't shaving each other's backs in backstage skits and stuff, you know. They were being treated with a bit more respect. But the ones, to me, that have really gotten over are those ones, like Ricochet, comes up with a new character, heel gimmick, never really played a heel before, is willing to make a goof of himself, but at the same time looks great anyway. Swerve, there's not, well, what do you say about Swerve? Like, the guy's just unbelievable. Tony Storm, talk about evolution and changing character. Like, that's one of the biggest character changes you're ever going to see. And they're the ones that have succeeded. The ones who didn't succeed are the ones who didn't change anything really about themselves, and just came over and expected to do the same things over and over again. And like, you could even say that about the Hurt Syndicate. I do think for them to really connect with the fans, like, they need to change something to really fully connect and be at a position at the top of the card where they can be seen as draws for the company. Brian Max says there's to be said for throwing something on the telly behind you. Let's all watch Bluey. Yeah, I've watched tons of episodes of Bluey when I've been babysitting various nieces and things like that. You know, Bluey's a great show. We'll throw it on there. I used to have the All Elite Morro sign on it, but the app for that isn't working at the minute. So the answer is no, because I don't want to get copyright stricken either, Brian. I'd hate for that to happen and for no one to ever see this. Yeah, so my advice is Bandito, Mascara Dorada, go out your way and watch this match. It was bloody fantastic. I thought I wanted to finish tonight with this. Where is it? Did I get past it? Yes, this. So, while we were on air last week, All Elite Morro on the airwaves, Michael Oku versus Bandito, please and thanks. That would be incredible, Aaron. That would be incredible. While we were on the YouTube airwaves last week, literally while we were doing the show, and they were, they'd teased it with those feet walking. Playlist on repeat has a few cheeky views. That's a good idea. They were teasing something with feet walking, and people thought, oh, it's a big return. It's Gunter coming back. It's blah, blah, blah. And there's so much to unpack with this. They were literally just teasing an ad for WrestleMania that's in 6 months' time. And that ad then goes ahead to feature Paul Levesque, Paul Heyman, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and CM Punk. And yeah, whatever. Like, these are some of the biggest stars in the company. But firstly, why is Paul Levesque front and center? Why is he in the center? Why is the head booker on the fucking thing at all? I've seen people argue online that, WrestleMania shoe advert. Thanks, Ribshot. Get your WrestleMania shoes now on shopwwe.com. Wherever the fuck the website is. Why is the head booker front and center of the poster? And why is Paul Heyman being deferential to the head booker and not to one of the guys he's managing? Like, what is this shit? This is one of the worst posters ever. Firstly, because the head booker is front and center. And I've seen people argue, well, Vince was on WrestleMania posters. Vince was an on-screen character. Paul Levesque is not an on-screen character. He's not on the show. He's the writer. You never seen David Chase on a poster for Sopranos with James Gandolfini. You never seen the guy who wrote Walking Dead on there with the fella from the mainland. Like, whatever his name is, Andrew, whatever. You don't... Why is the supposed head writer of the company, head of creative, on front and center of their poster for WrestleMania? It's infuriating. And then he's not even at their next big show where they crown one of the people in the poster champion. What is going on? Secondly, like, that's the first part. Secondly, this is so tone deaf. Actually, secondly, I'll get to the tone deaf part third. They're supposed to be playing poker. Where's the cards? There's not a deck of cards here. Who's winning the poker game? Why is Roman Reigns pushing his chips all in? Like, what is he betting on? He has no cards there in front of him. Ridiculous. To be fair, he normally comes out to say, welcome to WrestleMania. But then again, we never got... Thank you, Ribshot. Ribshot says, to be fair, he normally comes out to say, in reference to Paul Levesque, comes out to say, welcome to WrestleMania. But Howard Finkel, we never got Howard Finkel on the poster. Correct and right. We never got Howard Finkel on the poster. You know what? Maybe we should have had Howard Finkel, the Fink, on the poster of WrestleMania 6. That would have been fantastic. Why is the writer on the poster? Why is there no cards there? What are they doing? Why are they pushing their chips in the middle if they have no cards to bet on? That's infuriating as well. It's symbolism. It's a symbol that's crap. Are they playing craps? I don't see dice there either. They should have played craps, because then the symbolism would be correct. And thirdly, and this is the real part, it's tone deaf. Brock Lesnar is on your fucking poster, who's come back to the company in under a shroud of controversy. A Ripshot says the Fink would have brought a deck of cards. You know the Fink would have had a loaded deck in his inside pocket. He struck me as that kind of guy. He'd have been ready for a game of cards with these marks. So, like, yeah, like, also, you know, the big argument was, who's carrying this company this year? Let's be honest here. It's Rhea Ripley and Io Sky are really the ones carrying this company in my mind. Why are we getting 6 middle-aged to almost fucking elderly men here on the poster when you've got people like Io Sky who's having without a doubt the best in-ring year of any wrestler in the company, and Rhea Ripley who feels like the hottest act in the company. 5 Mark says we're not betting cards here, we're betting on whose appearance on the poster will get the most attention. Whose was it? Is it Paul or is it Brock? I don't know. Do you think Cody Lesnar and Roman Punk yeah, it could be Cody Lesnar and Roman Punk. It would make sense. It feels like they don't really have anyone set up for Cody for WrestleMania. Like, who's out there that feels hot enough to go against Cody for WrestleMania? Nobody. And generally in times where that happens, and he's kind of gone through everyone. I know he even went through Brock before, but he's kind of gone through everyone anyway. So it only makes sense that they do Cody Lesnar, because that's what they do. They go back to someone like Lesnar when nobody else is hot enough already. But that would be such uninspiring main events. Look, I'd be very interested in Roman and Punk, of course. Their match this year should have been. That's the match. That's what should have main evented night 1 of WrestleMania this year, was Roman versus Punk. In fact, probably, I know they had to do Cody Cena when they had the chance. They had to do the match. I know they got the build wrong with the heel turn and so on, but like, it was the last year, you're never going to get to do that match. So it was the right choice main event in WrestleMania with Cody versus Cena. And let's be fair, when they did the angle initially, Cena's heel turn, it was much talked about and very hot initially. They kind of made shit of it very quickly. But it was still the right match to headline. But I do think they should have done Roman and Punk on night 1. 5 Marks, I don't care too much about the poster, but you know what annoyed me? The fucking teasers, expecting a new faction. We get a Mania promo. Like, why are you doing teasers for a promo? You're just, and they're doing this again, right? They're deliberate. It's almost deliberate at this stage. They're teasing outsiders for this tournament to wrestle Cena's last match. And people online are talking about Edge and Jericho. And I think they want them to do that. They want them to talk about Edge and Jericho, knowing full well that they can't deliver. One of Vince McMahon's biggest creative, I know we did the booking podcast last week and we skewered McMahon's booking, but Vince had this thing: never build up a match you can't deliver. That Vince lived and died by that. He fully believed that you never build up a match you can't deliver. Okay? They're leaning in now to teasing matches they can't deliver. They're leaning into it. And New Japan are doing it as well with Nakamura, because I don't think it's going to be Nakamura for Tanahashi's retirement match. I think it's just going to be Okada. And these companies now are teasing matches they can't deliver. And I don't know why they're doing that. 5 Marks there. Aren't we ready for Braun or Fatu to headline Mania after a Rumble win? But sure, we've seen that. Sorry, that's Ribshot. We've seen that this year. They gave Jey Uso the Rumble win, and he just opened night 1. Winning the Rumble doesn't mean that anymore. Then they could update the poster to that poker room being trashed with one of them standing amongst the debris. Ribshot, that would be awesome. However, you're giving them too much credit for their creativity. You're more creative than they are. You thought of a way better idea. Like, we spoke about this last week as well. I kind of went on a rant about Braun Breaker. It's time. It's time to push Braun Breaker. I don't know how long more Jacob Fatu is going to be out injured for. I know he had like mouth surgery. It shouldn't take too long. He should definitely be back for the Rumble. It doesn't. Rumble feels a bit early to start pushing Fatu, because I think they kind of fucked them up a little bit this year. However, it's Braun Breaker's time. Clearly. Push him. Stick him in the Mania main event. Have him beat Brock Lesnar. Fuck it. Who cares? Ribshot, that is my body. Summer fruits. By Marks. Oh, this better be Legado now. Yeah, see? And they've re-signed him. Haven't seen him since. David Mean says they're trolling their own fans. David Ayer says Hendry versus Cena. Eye emoji. It's not going to happen. They see our Edge and Jericho, and they raise it Joe Hendry. Look, the outsiders that end up in this 8 or 16 man tournament are going to be TNA or AAA talent, or at the very most exotic, someone from Noah. But there's nobody in Noah at the moment who would be well known enough to stick in the tournament, because they haven't done anything with that relationship to build anyone up. There's nobody from Noah on WWE TV, and if they're never going to give people time on their main shows, they're never going to have outsiders part of, outsiders that are within their grasp of getting, such as TNA, AAA, or Noah. You need to give people TV time in order for your fans to know them. So it's going to be Joe Hendry being the outsider. Maybe Matt or Jeff Hardy, as Aaron said there. Yeah, that's literally it. It's going to be TNA talent or two, maybe AAA. There might be that the Lizard guy. Maybe the Lizard guy. It's a tournament. They're all going to lose anyway. Maxie says Danhausen. It could be Danhausen. I think his contract is up. Cottle Crow says thoughts on title versus title match for WrestleKingdom. Kind of did a little bit earlier. Look, I'm not overly enthused about it. I need to think about it more, to be honest, because maybe it's the right choice. Maybe we're giving out about their lack of commitment to the future, and at the same time hoping for an Okada match, which is a commitment to the past. So maybe I was being hypocritical all along with that. And maybe Yota Tsuji versus Takeshita is the right choice. I just felt when they had him win the title off Zack early, that meant they had a big plan in place, and that doesn't feel like a huge plan. David Mean says Michelle McCool's going to win the tournament for Cena for his last match. Nick Teodoro says love Danhausen, needs to be in WWE, but TK won't let him leave. Is his contract up yet, Nick? He should have been released ages ago. There was no need to keep Danhausen under contract whatsoever. Zero need. I know he actually was selling merch for some time after he was taken off TV, but really, it's total swerve. Cena enters at number 30 and says, nobody will retire me but me. Another heel turn for Cena. And then gets eliminated by Brock Lesnar, probably. Again. But yeah, so that kind of brought me to Rhea Ripley, and I've done a little bit of digging. Danhausen is taking indie bookings. Yeah, I don't think he's allowed to take indie bookings, but his contract is up soon, or around now, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I want to talk about Rhea Ripley as a draw, because I've done so. I'm from Kilkenny, Ribshot, Southeast Ireland, about an hour south of Dublin. And Nick says, but everyone in AEW can take indie bookings. Yeah, for the most part. They have to get them cleared, but they can clear bookings with them. But there's been a lot of trouble since Collision started on Saturday nights, and a lot of Ring of Honor gets taped on Saturday nights. It's been more difficult for AEW talent to actually take the indie bookings. So they're allowed to take them, but if they're needed for Ring of Honor, which a lot of the people who are at the level that would be taking indie bookings, Saturday night is the biggest night for indie bookings. So they're been brought in to shoot Ring of Honor, and that means they actually, as much the fact that they're allowed to take indie bookings, they end up not being able to take most of them anyway, because of being needed for Ring of Honor tapings and stuff. Nick from USA, love chatting with the fellow YouTubers. Absolutely, Nick, 100%. Would love that. And yeah, so that's the kind of trouble with Collision being Saturday nights. If there was talk of Collision's night being moved, I think they were floating a Thursday night thing. That would open up AEW talent to be able to take more bookings on indies on Saturday nights, which I think would in turn then help young talent, because what you'd get is they'd get their work Ring of Honor matches on, or Collision matches on Thursday nights, and then be able to take indie bookings Friday, Saturday, and a lot of wrestlers would go from working one night a week to possibly 3 nights a week. And that would be something that would enhance their growth as wrestlers. You're tripling the amount of matches essentially you can wrestle in a year, and that's only good for talent development. So I do hope Collision does move to Thursday nights. Now that can be a pain in the arse for the viewer sometimes, where you get 2 nights in a row and then you have to wait 6 nights for the next show. But I do think it would actually aid the company massively in the long run, being able to get the younger guys on the roster all that extra work, allowing them to go onto the indies Friday and Saturday. I know they're less likely to get cleared to do indies as they were when the company started at first, because this thing, Tony was all for that start, but then guys that he's paying on guaranteed contracts are going out in the indies and getting injured, and it's kind of like, well, I'm paying you and now you're injured and you didn't even get injured on one of my shows. So the intent was there at the start for a more of an open relationship with the indies that isn't as open as it used to be. Whereas I think they should get back to that, particularly the younger talent. It's one of the reasons I don't think Hook has developed massively, is because he didn't go out and work indies when the opportunity was there, and he has stagnated as a talent. And he was a guy who has a lot of potential, but doesn't have the work done. And like, look what going to AAA has been able to do for Dominic. To be fair, like, if you would ask me 4 or 5 years ago, or whenever these guys debuted, maybe 3 years ago, whatever, who was the better long-term prospect, Dominic or Hook, I would have said Hook. But Dominic has improved immensely, like way beyond, like he's a million miles improved beyond where Hook is now. And there were 2 guys coming in around a similar time frame. Hook seemed to have all the aura. Dominic looked weird, but he just landed on a character, was able to translate that into more in-ring time, tag teams, going down to AAA, putting on, like, the fact he can go to AAA and work 20-minute main events at this stage of his career, like, working a main event style is one of the hardest things for wrestlers to transition into. And he gets to do it now in AAA, so that when he eventually is put in main events in WWE, he'll have 6, 10, 12 of those main event world title style matches under his belt. That's invaluable for his development. Ripshot says, I could see Hook doing well in Japan. There's so, like, not even New Japan. Hook in Noah or All Japan, or even like DDT or something. Maybe not DDT, but like All Japan would be fucking 6 months of Hook in All Japan would improve like insane levels. Insane. And it wouldn't be that much pressure on him to perform on every show, because the eyeballs just aren't there. Not that many people are going to be watching it. But yeah, look, that's just not the way they're operating, or he's operating. So it's difficult. There was a lot of backlash that Rhea or EO, but particularly Rhea, wasn't featured on that poster. And so I did a bit of digging on kind of Rhea's numerical metrics. And this is much harder now in the Netflix era than it used to be, because we don't get quarter by quarter breakdowns, so we can't see what Rhea's quarters are doing on the show. They just released a poster for Survivor Series. It's Heyman and the Bronze, not DDT, that have him wrestle in the supermarket or something. Hey, Ribshaw, Hook wrestling in the supermarket could be awesome. Could be awesome. Let's see if we can get Survivor Series poster. No. Am I missing it? Probably not here yet. No, these are custom ones. Yeah. No, we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll analyze that poster next week, seeing as we're in poster analysis mode. But yeah, having Hook wrestle in a supermarket sounds awesome, to be perfectly honest. A supermarket, sweep the leg, Maxi. Recent posts on Reddit Squared Circle. I might be able to get it up. My battery's about to die on my phone. It's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong. Anyway, but yeah, so Rhea as a draw. Push the Bronze and Rhea, and put Braun and Rhea on the poster. Next generation. It's time to get this thing fired up. Like, what's wrong with putting people over? You know? But yeah, I have some notes here on Rhea as a draw. Do I? Where are my notes gone? I had a little notepad. This one? Is it this one? No. I was using Google Docs. I can't find my Google. Yeah. But basically, right, how can we tell in the kind of post-Netflix world if Rhea Ripley is a draw or not? And there's a few things we can look at, right? She is one of their most followed stars on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm not calling it the other thing. She is one of their most followed stars on that. She is... Here it is. She's one of the most followed stars on Twitter, all forms of social media. We all saw the Rule 34 on the desktop and don't deny it. What's Rule 34? Just saw it on Twitter. It's good to have Breaker front and center. It is good to have him front and center. He should be. And so should Rhea. So Rhea's become somewhat of a social media sensation as well. So, like, use that. Now, the other thing is, if you look at WWE Shop top 10 best merch sellers this year, Rhea is on that as well. She's one of their best merch sellers. Well, as Ribshop pointed out, she's one of her most followed stars in real life too, unfortunately. That shit, that was in Paris or somewhere, was it? That got weird. Massive social media following. Big merch seller, one of the top merch sellers in the company. And this gets back to that Evolution card that didn't sell that many tickets. And we knew this was going to happen at the time, as the women in the company would be kind of punished and unfairly called not draws, because that show didn't do as well as the show the night before. I'd say, please don't look up Rule 34 on stream. Okay, thanks, Kyle. Should I even have mentioned it on this? I'm never going to look it up now in general. So, fix your focus. How do I do that? How do I fix my focus? Is it because I keep moving back and forth? Looks fixed on my screen. Thanks, Shane. Your fucking cameraman over there. That better, Shane? And I feel like Rhea, and the thing about that the Evolution shows, that was the show where Rhea and Io were having that insane match until fucking Naomi came out and ruined everything, wasn't it? Thank you, Shane. That was the Evolution show. And like, yeah, it didn't sell as much tickets, but they were put on the death spot. They were put on the Sunday night, the third show of the weekend, what was also All In weekend. You're very kind, but no crack. Shane is in deep into Kerwin White story. Is this part of your bizarre storylines, Shane? Is that the next episode? Are you giving a sneak peek to the All Elite Morons, as we're collectively going by now? We think we decided that at the end of last week. We are the All Elite Morons. And yeah, I keep trying to do this Rhea thing, and it's never going to happen. But yeah, so Rhea was put in the dead spot. Third show of the weekend in Atlanta. You had the NXT one the afternoon. On the Saturday, you had Goldberg's retirement on the Saturday night, which sold decent tickets. And you had then on the Sunday night, burnt out audience, Rhea headlining, I believe, against Io Sky. Magnificent match until probably one of the best wrestling matches in WWE this year, until they did the Naomi stuff that I just didn't like. Other people might like that, not for me. Okay, so that kind of ruined what I thought was a fantastic match. And there was again rumblings in the media that WWE higher ups were unhappy with the ticket sales and the performance of the Women's Evolution show. But that was a self-fulfilling prophecy when you put them in that spot at the end of an extremely loaded wrestling weekend where you have All In happening in front of 20 whatever thousand in Texas. You have Goldberg's show there with 12,000 in the same arena the night before. You have an NXT show that would have been built up for months. And then the show that comes after all of that is the Evolution one. Burnt out audience Sunday night. And yeah, it underperformed in terms of the metric. And this has kind of been used as an argument to Rhea not being a draw. Now, the other thing, and I say this all the time, is a lot of times people organically get over. And Rhea organically got over throughout the whole Dominic stuff. And is fantastic in ring, despite the fact I don't think she always uses it to the best of her abilities. She has fantastic ability in the ring. She organically got over. Getting over organically and becoming a draw are actually different things. Becoming a big time draw is very different than being over. Lots of people have been over in the history of wrestling who weren't also draws. However, if your company doesn't push you or feature you like a draw, it's very, very hard for someone who's over to then translate into a draw. So when the company does things like, thanks, David, 20 segues into Rhea Ripley in the last 10 minutes. I've learned from Shane, the segue king. If the company doesn't push you and feature you as a draw, it's very hard for you to translate into a draw. Lots of wrestlers get over, they don't all become draws. Most of the time that they don't become draws is due to your featuring within the company. If WWE had put her on the poster for WrestleMania beside the likes of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, it would have subconsciously put into our minds that she's a big draw. And then that can become the self-fulfilling prophecy. You have to feature people like draws in order for them to become a draw. I said this over the summer. I've said this many, many times about placement on TV shows. We speak about segment 1, usually segment 5 at the top of the hour, and then the main event segment. Generally, companies put their draws in, their biggest TV draws in those slots. And when AEW, in the build up to Double or Nothing with Ospreay and Hangman, started to put Hangman and Ospreay in that 1 spot, in that 5 spot, in that 8 or 9 spot, that's when you know they're trusting them as a draw. And that's kind of when I knew that they were going to put the title on Hangman. They were telling us, we trust him as a draw now. He can draw in these positions. He can draw on the key parts of the card where we usually gain or lose viewership. Now, we don't have those access to those metrics now for WWE because of the Netflix thing, unfortunately. So we can't see that, but akin to that, or similar to that is when you put people on posters of your biggest shows, it also does that thing of telling the audience we trust this person on our poster to draw money for this event. There's Cottle Crow as well. I forgot about that, Cottle. Putting Evolution on an arena across the street from a Beyonce concert was a ludicrous decision. Ludicrous. Yeah, a Beyonce concert. You're talking one of the biggest stars in the world, especially with a demographic that are going to be interested in women's wrestling. Madness. So not only was she up against a tired wrestling audience over that weekend, probably the 8,000 tickets they sold is actually probably really good in hindsight, considering what she was up against. Not just she, but all the women. David Mean says she's a killer and she's being used as Io's friend. Ooh, friend. She needs a heel turn to get the best out of her. Yeah, she can be the way they're treating her at the moment isn't absolutely not the best use of her. I don't know if she needs a heel turn, just a slight attitude adjustment, unintended, but not one from Cena. But yeah, just a slight kind of change of focus on what her character is aiming to achieve. Aaron Reynolds with a great point there. Modern WWE actively hinders stars becoming bigger stars because they want the draw to be WWE as is. Yes. And it was a big Vince thing of Vince didn't like when people got over on their own for whatever bizarre reason. If you're running a wrestling company, if I was running a wrestling company and people were getting over on their own, I'd be fucking delighted because I'm going to make more money and grow the company because those people are getting over. Or at least be the protagonist in the story. Yeah, she needs to be more central to her own. Like, Rhea Ripley should never be a side character in anyone else's story. She should be the central character. And if you find her being the sidekick to Io, move her into a different storyline where she can be the focus and have Io do her own thing anyway. Yeah, it feels like she should have been on that poster. I'd have put Io on the poster as well. I'd have had like something like Cody and Roman or Cody and Punk as the male representatives and like Io and Rhea as female representatives. Because if you want to develop these people into draws, like Rhea has motion. Io Sky has motion. There is a serious groundswell of support surrounding Io Sky because of how good she's been this year. Rhea's been brilliant for the last couple of years, so there's a groundswell of support surrounding her. But the company needs to put in the work to translate that kind of grassroots support into something more meaningful as a draw. They literally killed Cardona's momentum when he got himself over constantly. Yeah, Matt Cardona was like, they tried to kill Danielson's. They tried. Danielson was the hottest thing they'd had in years, and Vince just wanted to do Batista versus Randy Orton. And it backfired. Yeah, there you go. Aaron said it as well. Like, Vince did not want to belt up and put the focus of WrestleMania onto Bryan Danielson. This small indie killer that they had on their roster was never meant to stand tall at the end of WrestleMania over the more traditionally looking wrestling stars that Vince wanted to push. And Rhea and Io have gotten, like, right now at this moment, I think it's fair to say that Rhea and Io are more over than Becky Lynch, more over than Charlotte Flair, more over than Jade, more over than Tiffy, more over than Bayley. Treat them as such. Is Brock Lesnar more over than Rhea or Io right now? You're putting him on the poster. I don't think he is. Punk might be, yeah. I think it'd be fair to say Punk's probably more over than one or both. Cody is. I don't even know if maybe Roman is. Maybe he is. I think Roman pops numbers when he shows up. Cardona just became the JCW champ, but Russo now there. How long till they move to Mondays? Next Monday. Yeah, Russo showing up in Juggalo Championship Wrestling last week was a mindfuck of the highest order. Hey, look, I hope it works out for all involved. It's just crazy. Okay, we're at the hour and 30-minute mark. We've done a Broadway and a half. Thanks everyone in the chat. Ripshaw, Aaron, David. 2 Davids actually. Mean and Ayers. Cottle, Shane, Maxie. 5 Marks were in. Nick was in. Great chats had here today on All Elite Morro. Whale of a time. Oshin was around. Colin was in again. Michelle was here. Thanks to everyone for dropping in. New pod out today on me and Shane did a kind of look back at our early memories and our love/hate for all things hardcore and deathmatch wrestling. That was super fun. Shane has what did he release last week? It wasn't the book. Oh, the DDP one and the Bizarre one. That's a great video. He'll have another one coming this week on Kerwin White. And then Total Extreme Morrow, second last episode of the season, coming out Wednesday. My 2 episodes left of WCW 1992. That's been fun. Thoughts on DJ Carey, off topic. I ain't ever going to talk about that on the internet. We saw the desktop gate, Maxie. Thank you, everybody. And see y'all soon. Yup.